Today is all about meal prep. What better thing to do at the beginning of a week than to make a big pot of something and be able to eat on it for the rest of the week? So today we're making an Irish stew, vegan Irish stew. We're taking the beer out, so it's really going to be an Irish stew without the beer. But certainly if you like beer, feel free to add a whole can of a good stout beer and just replace that with about 2 cups of the veggie stock that we're going to use, okay? So this is quick and easy, comes together really nicely, and so let's get started. We're going to start with some basics as far as the vegetables are concerned. We have some small red potatoes. You can use small white potatoes, or you might find them called young potatoes. We're going to use an 8-ounce container of white button mushrooms. We're going to use parsnips, usually like 2 normal-sized parsnips. I have some huge parsnips here and some pretty big carrots as well. So we're going to use 2 carrots. I'm going to put in some greens. It's always good to put some greens in anywhere. That will be the tip of today. Add some greens, green leafy greens, whether it's collard greens or whether it's kale, whatever it is. When you cook it up in a stew, it's going to just cook down. You're not even really going to see it in case you say, I don't know if I like the flavor. You won't even know that it's there, but you'll feel the goodness of it later. I am using some Swiss chard. I actually just pulled these out of the garden today, and it was 16 degrees yesterday. But if you want to grow something that really does not take a whole lot of your time and effort and thought, put some Swiss chard in the ground and look at those. They are beautiful. Just pulled those out. We're also going to be using some celery. I have a couple stalks of celery. I have about 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. If you like garlic, just add extra. Actually, I probably will add extra because I love garlic in my food. We're also going to use 1 whole onion. I would probably say a large onion. Garlic and onions kind of go in everything that I make. We're going to use a veggie stock, and the stock that I'm using is water and Better Than Bouillon. I absolutely love Better Than Bouillon. And this is the vegetable kind. You can get it in beef and chicken, but the vegetable one, I even have my parents using it because just a scoop of that in some of everything just adds such a flavor. It's cooked down so it's nice and thick. It's almost a paste, but you just add some water to it. So we're gonna do that. And then our seasonings are gonna be 2 bay leaves. We're also gonna use some thyme, some salt, and a little bit of pepper. And then to give it a slight sweetness, although you really shouldn't taste it outright, about 2 teaspoons of brown sugar, okay? What else did I miss? Oh, and we're going to put a little bit of tomato paste in there as well. That'll give it a little bit of color along with the veggie stock. It'll make it nice and thick. And speaking of thickening it, we're going to add about a 1/4 cup of white flour. And that will just thicken the whole thing so that you'll be able to get that stew kind of bubbliness going on. Okay, so let's start with chopping up our veggies. I'm going to move some things out of the way here. And we're going to get to chopping. When you're making some things, you always want to start with your onions and garlic. And I think we're going to start with our celery too. Okay, I have my favorite trusty knife here. And we're going to go from there. All right. Give me a couple minutes to chop this up. Honestly, I like to pre-chop a lot of my veggies so that way I don't have to stop too much while I'm cooking. But we'll just look at a couple things for the video's sake today. One of the things I do want to tell you about is chopping garlic. Yes, you might have seen me use garlic out of a can or whatnot, but I try not to do that. I'd gotten some because I was doing some things that were really quick, and but there is nothing like fresh garlic. I know sometimes people aren't sure what to do with it, or it takes so long to chop it up. But I still think it's the best way to do it. One time, my friend Liz and I were cooking for Father's Day, and we had all this stuff to cook. And so she chopped up, I don't know, probably multiple whole heads of garlic, and so that we had it. And I don't remember if I didn't use it all, but talk about some meal prep. That was awesome because since I use garlic so often, I was able to have fresh chopped garlic, not the kind with the citric acid in it that you get at the grocery store and all, but it was already chopped and ready to go. And I think we're gonna try that again because it was fabulous. I don't know if she realizes the light bulb moment that I had when I saw her chop up an entire container of fresh garlic. I was just floored. I will usually chop it up every day, but I don't mind cooking, so it's not, that much for me. But if you have time on a Saturday or, you know, you have some time while you're cooking, I would say chop it up. Now, keep in mind, when you're cooking vegan food or any fresh food, there are no preservatives in it. So it's not gonna last as long as it would if you get it in a jar at the grocery store, because that has citric acid and other chemicals or other things, depending on which ones you get, that will keep it from turning bad or molding or rancid or whatnot. So just recognize that if you chop it early, you're gonna need to use it pretty quickly, okay? For this recipe, I'm trying to mince these fairly small. However, if you like the flavor of garlic and you want big chunks of it, you know, you can make it however you'd like to make it. I usually like them small, at least for something like this. I think I had about 4 cloves in here. All right, let's get started. If you don't want to cook with oil, feel free to just add water. So the veggies have been cooking for about 5-7 minutes or so. They're going to cook even more when you add the broth in, but we're going to add the flour and coat it really nicely. The flour is what's going to help thicken it up later, but you want the flour to touch all the vegetables. All surfaces must be coated so that that gravy, almost like a thin gravy, I guess, would be nice and flavorful. Once you add your flour, now you're able to add your liquid because the flour is going to help thicken that up, okay? I have about 4 cups of liquid. If you're gonna use beer, I'd say maybe 2 to 3 cups of broth and then 1 cup or 2 cups of your stout beer. Here's my vegetable bouillon. I'm almost out. My goodness. I usually buy these a couple tubs at a time, really. It says for basic stock, 1 teaspoon with 1 8-ounce cup of water can make like 1.5 cups of stock. Well, because you know I like some flavor, so I've never added 1 teaspoon of anything. Okay, so I add it until I think it tastes good. It also, when you use that vegetable stock, it adds a nice dark, rich brown to your sauces. Sometimes if I want a little bit more flavor or whatnot to the end of that, I might top it off with a little bit of soy sauce or liquid aminos, whichever you use. You know, as in vegan cooking, there's a couple different options you can use. But that is cooking. At this point, I'm going to add my seasonings. Again, I have thyme, salt, and pepper. I also have 2 teaspoons of brown sugar. If you make this the first time and it's a little too sweet for you, then just either eliminate it altogether or cut it down to 1 teaspoon. I'm also going to add in our tomato paste. Probably could have added that earlier, but there's liquid in there, it'll be fine. I need a 1/2 cup of tomato paste. And this tube is a little more than 1/2 cup, so I'm just going to take a little more than 1/2 tube. I know I should be measuring, but you'll get the recipe. I'll put the recipe in the description below. Anytime you see a recipe, I encourage you to start with the recipe first so that you know kind of how it's supposed to be made and what it tastes like. And then after you make it, just make it your own. Add a little bit more seasonings that you like, maybe less of certain flavors that you don't like. Put in something else or take something out altogether. It really doesn't matter. It's all about the flavor. It's all about the textures, and everybody's very different. You might like something that one person, someone else does not like. So it's all right. All right, so I have our flour in there, which is thickening it up. I have the seasonings in there, which is flavoring it up. I put the tomato paste in there, which is also going to add some thickness to the stew, as well as give some flavor. And I am going to add my greens in here. The greens cook so fast, really. You don't really need a lot of time for the greens. So sometimes I won't even put it in until the very end. But for today, sometimes you want to throw it all in there, one pot meal, put the lid on, and walk away. Okay? Which is exactly what we're going to do. We'll be back after it cooks. See the potatoes, you see the little bits of Swiss chard, so you have some nice chunky green pieces in there, and the celery from the other green pieces, all kinds of goodness. So I scooped out some for myself, so I want to taste it with you. It is bubbling hot, so I'm hoping it cooled down a little bit. But when it comes to the flavor, listen, add or subtract whatever you like. This is thyme. I won't say thyme heavy, but you can smell it in the air. It's a hint of thyme. It's not overwhelming. But if you would rather have oregano, put oregano. If you'd rather have basil, put some basil. We're going to do a video later on the different seasonings and how they're attached to different cultures. So, you know, if you like to eat other types of things or other seasonings, feel free to do that. So let's give it a taste. I love mushrooms. A little bit of everything, but I know it's hot. That is good. That is delicious. The sauce is not as thick as a gravy, but not as soupy as a soup. It's right in the middle. It's perfect. So I think we added the right amount of tomato paste and the right amount of flour. The vegetables are nice and tender. And I minced the garlic, and I added extra garlic so that each flavor, almost every spoonful rather, you get a little piece of garlic, a little piece of onion, but it's cooked down so it's not overpowering at all. I can't wait for you guys to try it. This would be great on a winter day, spring day, cold day. Darn it, I like soup, so I can do soups all year round. But this is a great one to have on hand. You can always cook this up, put it in some containers, freeze some for later, and that way you will always have a meal. Most definitely have it with some fresh bread, and we'll work on making that a little bit later. But I hope you enjoy this video. I hope it will help you with some meal prep for the week. I hope you learned something about different herbs and seasonings and making sauces thick. That's my goal, is to make sure that I give you great videos, great recipes, and teach you something along the way. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and definitely the notification bell so you know when the next one comes in. It was great having you guys here. And remember, it is always time to cook. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.